The image of myself I saw in mirrors is the same one I hold against the bosom of my soul. I could never be anything but frail and hunched over, even in my thoughts. Everything about me belongs to a glossy print pasted, along with other decals, in the old album of a little boy who died long ago. To love myself is to feel sorry for myself. Perhaps one day, towards the end of the future, someone will write a poem about me, and I'll begin to reign in my kingdom. God is the fact that we exist, and that's not all. Absurdity. Let's act like sphinxes, however falsely, until we reach the point of no longer knowing who we are. For we are, in fact, false sphinxes, with no idea of what we are in reality. The only way to be in agreement with life is to disagree with ourselves. Absurdity is divine. Let's develop theories, patiently and honestly thinking them out, in order to promptly act against them, acting and justifying our actions with new theories that condemn them. Let's cut a path in life and then go immediately against that path. Let's adopt all the poses and gestures of something we aren't and don't wish to be, and don't even wish to be taken for being. Let's buy books so as not to read them. Let's go to concerts without caring to hear the music or to see who's there. Let's take long walks because we're sick of walking. And let's spend whole days in the country just because it bores us. Today, feeling almost physically ill because of that age-old anxiety which sometimes wells up, I ate and drank rather less than usual in the first-floor dining room of the restaurant responsible for perpetuating my existence. And as I was leaving, the waiter, having noted that the bottle of wine was still half full, turned to me and said, "So long, Signor, and I hope you feel better." The trumpet blast of this simple phrase relived my soul like a sudden wind clearing the sky of clouds, as I realized something I had never really thought about. With these cafe and restaurant waiters, with barbers, and with the delivery boys on street corners, I enjoy a natural, spontaneous rapport that I cannot say I have with those that I supposedly know more intimately. Camaraderie has its subtleties. Some govern the world, others are the world. Between an American billionaire, a Caesar or Napoleon or Lenin, and a socialist leader of a small town, there is a difference in quantity but not of quality. Below them there's us, the unnoticed, the reckless playwright William Shakespeare, John Milton the schoolteacher, Dante Alighieri the tramp, the delivery boy who ran an errand for me yesterday, the barber who tells me jokes, and the waiter who just now demonstrated his camaraderie by wishing me well after noticing I've drunk only half the wine. It's a hopelessly bad lithograph. I stare at it without knowing if I see it. It's one among others in the shop window, in the middle of the window, under the steps. She holds Spring against her breast and stares at me with sad eyes. Her smile shines because the paper is glossy and her cheeks are red. The sky behind her is the color of light blue cloth. She has a sculpted, almost tiny mouth, and above its postcard expression her eyes keep staring at me with an enormous sorrow. The arm holding the flowers remind me of someone else's. Her dress or blouse has a low neck that reveals one shoulder. Her eyes are genuinely sad. They stare at me from the depth of the lithographic reality with a truth of some sort. She came with spring. Her eyes are large, but that's not what makes them sad. I tear myself from the window with violent steps. I cross the street and turn around with impotent indignation. She still holds the spring she was given, and her eyes are sad like all the things in life I've missed out on. Seen from a distance, the lithograph turns out to be more colorful. The figure's hair is tied at the top by a pinker than pink ribbon. I hadn't noticed. In human eyes, even in lithographic ones, there is something terrible, the inevitable warning of consciousness, the silent shout that there is a soul there. With a huge effort, I pull out of the sleep in which I was steeped, and like a dog, I shake off the drops of dark fog. Oblivious to my departure, as if bidding farewell to something else, those sad eyes of the whole of life, of this metaphysical lithograph that we observe from a distance, stare at me as if I knew something of God. The print, which has a calendar at the bottom, is framed above and below by two flatly curved, badly painted black strips. Within these upper and lower limits, above 1929, and an outmodel calligraphic vignette adorning the inevitable 1st of January, the sad eyes ironically smiled at me. Funny where I knew that figure from. In the corner at the back of the office, there is an identical calendar which I've seen countless times, but due to some lithographic mystery, or some mystery of my own, the eyes of the office copy express no sorrow. It's just a lithograph. Printed on glossy paper, it sleeps away its subdued life above the head of a left-handed elves. All of this makes me want to smile, but I feel a profound anxiety. I feel the chill of a sudden sickness in my soul. I don't have the strength to balk at this absurdity. What window overlooking what secret of God am I confronting against my will? Where does the window under the stairs lead to? What eyes stare at me from out of the lithograph? I'm practically trembling. I involuntarily raise my eyes to the far corner of the office where the real lithograph is. I keep raising my eyes so that corner of the office where the real lithograph is. I keep raising my eyes to that corner. To give each emotion a personality, a heart to each state of the heart. The girls came around the bend in a large group. They sang as they walked, and the sound of their voices was happy. I don't know who or what they might be. I listened to them for a time from afar, without a feeling of my own, but a feeling of sorrow for them impressed itself on my heart. For their future, for their unconsciousness, not directly for them, and perhaps after all, only for me. Literature, which is art married to thought and realization untainted by reality, seems to me the end towards which all human effort would have to strive, if it were truly human and not just a welling up of our animal self. To express something is to conserve its virtue and take away its terror. Fields are greener in their description than in their actual greenness. Flowers, if described with phrases that define them in the air of the imagination, will have colors with durability not found in cellular life. What moves lives? What is said endures. There is nothing in life that's less real for having been well described. Small-minded critics point out that such and such poem, with its protracted cadences, in the end says merely that it's a nice day. But to say it's a nice day is difficult, and the nice day itself passes on. It's up to us to conserve the nice day in a wordy, florid memory, sprinkling new flowers and new stars over the fields and skies of the empty, fleeting outer world. Everything is what we are and everything will be. For those who come after us in the diversity of time, what we will have intensely imagined, what we, that is, by embodying our imagination, will have actually been. The grand tarnished panorama of history amounts, as I see it, to a flow of interpretations, a confused consensus of unreliable eyewitness accounts. The novelist is all of us, and we narrate whenever we see, because seeing is complex like everything. Right now, I have so many fundamental thoughts, so many metaphysical things to say that I suddenly feel tired, and I've decided to write no more, think no more. I'll let the fever of saying put me to sleep instead, and with closed eyes I'll stroke, as if petting a cat, all that I might have said. A breath of music, or of a dream, of something that would make me almost feel, something that would make me not think. After the last drops of rain began to fall more slowly from the rooftops and the sky's blue began to spread over the street's paving stones, then the vehicles sang a different song, louder and happier, and windows could be heard opening up to the no longer forgetful sun. From the narrow street at the end of the next block came the loud invitation of the first seller of lottery tickets, and nails being nailed into crates in the shop opposite reverberated in the limpid space. It was an ambiguous holiday, official but not strictly observed. Work and repose coexisted, and I had nothing to do. I'd woken up early, and I took a long time getting ready to exist. I paced from one side of the room to the other, dreaming out loud incoherent and impossible things, deeds I'd forgotten to do, hopeless ambitions haphazardly realized, fluid and lively conversations which, were they to be, would already have been. And in this reverie, without grandeur or calm, in this hopeless and endless dallying, I paced away my free morning, and my words, said out loud in a low voice, multiply in the echoing cloister of my inglorious isolation. Seen from the outside, my human figure was ridiculous, like everything human in its intimacy. Over the pajamas of my abandoned sleep, I'll put on an old overcoat, habitually employed for these morning vigils. My old slippers were falling apart, especially the left one, and with my hands in the pockets of my posthumous coat, I strolled down the avenue of my small room in broad and decisive steps, playing out in my useless reverie a dream no different from anybody else's. Through the open corners of my only window, thick drops of leftover rain could still be heard falling from the rooftops. It was still somewhat moist and cool from having rain. The sky, however, was triumphantly blue, and the clouds that remained from the defeated or tired rain retreated behind the castle, surrendering to the sky its rightful path. It was an occasion to be happy, but something weighed on me, some inscrutable yearning, an indefinable and perhaps even noble desire. Perhaps it was just taking me a long time to feel alive. And when I leaned out my high window, looking down at the street I couldn't see, I suddenly felt like one of those damp rags used for house cleaning that are taken to the window to dry but are forgotten, balled up on the sill where they slowly leave a stain. Sadly, or perhaps not, I recognize that I have an arid heart. An adjective matters more to me than the real weeping of a human soul. My master, Vieira. But sometimes I'm different. Sometimes I have the warm tears of those who don't have and never had a mother. And the eyes that burn with these dead tears burn inside my heart. I don't remember my mother. She died when I was 1 year old. My distracted and callous sensibility comes from the lack of that warmth and from my useless longing after kisses I don't remember. I'm artificial. It was always against strange breasts that I woke up, cuddled as if by proxy. It's my longing for whom I might have been that distracts and torments me. Who would I be now if I received the affection that comes from the womb and is placed through kisses on a baby's face? Perhaps my regret for having never been a son plays a large role in my emotional indifference. Whoever held me as a child against her face couldn't hold me against her heart. Only she who was far away in a tomb could have done that. She who would have belonged to me had fate willed it. They told me later on that my mother was pretty, and they say that when they told me I made no comment. I was already fit in body and soul, but ignorant about emotions, and people's speech was not yet news from other, hard to imagine pages. My father, who lived far away, killed himself when I was 3, and so I never met him. I still don't know why he lived far away. I never cared to find out. I remember his death as a grave silence during the first meals we ate after learning about it. I remember that the others would occasionally look at me, and I would look back, dumbly comprehending. Then I'll eat with more concentration, since they might, when I wasn't looking, still be looking at me. I'm all of these things, like it or not, in the confused depths of my fatal sensibility. The clock in the back of the deserted house, everyone sleeping, slowly lets the clear quadruple sound of 4 o'clock in the morning fall. I still haven't fallen asleep, and I don't expect to. There's nothing on my mind to keep me from sleeping and no physical pain to prevent me from relaxing. But the dull silence of my strange body just lies there in the darkness, made even more desolate by the feeble moonlight of the street lamps. I'm so sleepy I can't even think, so sleepless I can't feel. Everything around me is the naked abstract universe, consisting of nocturnal negations. Divided between tired and restless, I succeed in touching, with the awareness of my body, a metaphysical knowledge of the mystery of things. Sometimes my soul starts fading, and then the random details of daily life float on the surface of consciousness, and I find myself entering amounts while floundering in sleeplessness. At other times, I wake up from the half-sleep I've fallen into, and hazy images with poetical and unpredictable colors play out their silent show to my inattention. My eyes aren't completely closed. My faint vision is fringed by a light from far away. It's from the street lamps that border the deserted street down below. To cease to sleep to replace this intermittent consciousness with better melancholy things, whispered in secret to someone who doesn't know me. To cease to be the ebb and flow of a vast sea, fluidly striking real shores on a night in which one really sleeps. To cease to be unknown and external, a swaying of branches in distant rows of trees, a gentle falling of leaves, their sound noted more than their fall, the ocean spray of far-off fountains, and all the uncertainty of parks at night lost in endless tangles, natural labyrinths of darkness. To cease, to end at last, but surviving as something else, the page of a book, a tuft of disheveled hair, the quiver of the creeping plant next to a half-open window, the irrelevant footsteps in the gravel of the bend, the last smoke to rise from the village going to sleep, the wagoner's whip left on the early morning roadside, absurdity, confusion, oblivion, everything that isn't life. In my own way I sleep, without slumber or repose, this vegetative life of imagining and the distant reflection of the silent street lamps, like the quiet foam of a dirty sea, hovers behind my restless eyebrows. I sleep and unsleep. Behind me, on the other side of where I'm lying down, the silence of the house touches infinity. I hear time fall, drop by drop, and not one drop that falls can be heard. My physical heart is physically oppressed by the almost forgotten memory of all that has been or that I've been. I feel my head materially supported by the pillow in which it makes a valley. My skin and the skin of the pillowcase are like two people touching in the shadows. Even the ear on which I'm lying mathematically engraves itself on my brain. I blink with fatigue and my eyelashes make an infinitesimal, inaudible sound against the felt whiteness of the pillow's slope. I breathe, sighing, and my breathing happens. It isn't mine. I suffer without feeling or thinking. The house clock, definitely located in the midst of the infinite, strikes the half hour, dry and void. Everything is so full, so deep, so black, and so cold. I pass time, I pass silences, formless worlds pass by me. Like a child of mystery, a cock suddenly crows, unaware that it's night time. I can sleep, for it's morning in me, and I feel my mouth smile, slightly displacing the soft pleats of the pillowcase pressed against my face. I can surrender to life. I can sleep. I can forget myself. And as incipient slumber wraps me in darkness, either I remember the cock that crowed, or it is the cock itself that crows a second time.